Didn't have an artist that maybe they liked, so instead of just saying, okay, not our day, let's go do something else.
It's another day in America, and once again the MAGA right wing is in meltdown mode, outraged, offended, and clutching pearls over the Super Bowl right on schedule. Today we're diving into clips from Phillip's show, where reactions to the game clearly hit a nerve with the usual crowd. As always, the response is loud, emotional, and wildly over the top. We'll break down what the panel said, examine how the discussion unfolded, and I'll share my perspective on this spectacle as it all plays out. So let's get started and see what's really going on here today.
President Trump predictably says he was not impressed. He called it, quote, absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever, and an affront to American greatness. But you didn't hear Bad Bunny mention ICE. He didn't mention immigration. Instead, he celebrated his Puerto Rican roots. And he ended the show by marching out to a parade of flags with these words on the big screen: the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Now, before spiking the football at the end, with these 4 words emblazoned on it, it said, together we are America. Well, heartwarming, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess this whole thing has been perplexing to me. I mean, conservatives, I'm sure they don't like a lot of the halftime performers, but popular music is popular music. And if you don't like it, just go watch something else.
Yeah,
don't complain about it.
Plenty of things you could be doing instead. I didn't find it super objectionable in comparison to previous halftime shows. It was pretty much equal level of outrage, except there wasn't any outrage, if you want to call, provocative dancing. That was probably the maximum that you could really muster. As far as the America is not great criticism from Trump, maybe he took the Bad Bunny line about, everything is America, or, God bless America, and then he lists like all of the Latin American and Central American countries. But honestly, I don't think that's objectionable either, because I think what that is just a unifying message. And I think most Americans just took it at its artistic performance value, which was family-friendly, actually family-focused.
There was a wedding that happened.
All the music performers in the world, 3 of the top 10 songs are his. He's an incredible international performer. America, he's a part of America, right? He's Puerto Rican, he's a part of America. This was an opportunity to introduce that part of the culture to a lot of people who never saw it before. I think he did it in a phenomenal way. He made sure the background of Puerto Rico was displayed. It was a chance for us to learn about America and our fellow Americans, and there really should be no controversy.
I mean, first of all, it was really just a fantastic show.
Oh, I was so happy.
It was like watching a movie set, as he moved through the entire show. But we also are having all of this anxiety about whether or not it was American. We've had U2, we've had Celine Dion, we've had Coldplay. We've had a lot of international acts with people who literally were not Americans, and nobody cares.
I think 2 things are true at the same time. Number one, I think the conservatives, some of whom are saying this was the worst thing in the world, including the president, I completely disagree. It wasn't the worst thing. It's also not the best Super Bowl halftime show we've ever seen. Some of the praise of it has been over the top to also make political points. And, to your point, there were a lot of people who did leave and didn't watch. They watched Kid Rock, which was also something that was happening at the time. They competed really well, I think, given it was a YouTube-only event. And Kid Rock was mocked, and conservatives were mocked for doing that. So they did do what you said.
It was bad lip syncing.
Only because it was kind of like
it was a response.
The conservatives didn't have an artist that maybe they liked, so instead of just saying, okay, not our day, let's go do something else. There's a lot of insulting happening of the Super Bowl. Jake Paul says, turn off this halftime show, or a fake American citizen performing who publicly hates America. I cannot support that. Kid Rock, this is today. Here's what he said about the Super Bowl halftime production.
Nothing against Jay-Z. I respect him for his hustle and his music, but it seems like there's a little bit of a DEI hire there going on,
I don't know. I mean, that's the stuff.
And that's it can't be about his music.
I mean, I mean, if you want to put DEI on the table, right? If this is about merit, I mean, Jay-Z and his career runs laps around Kid Rock.
Oh, yeah.
So what are we even talking about here?
And
It
even
seems like cultural resentment. And it doesn't seem necessary.
It's the reactionary culture that I think is so insufferable to so many Americans. And if you want to really take the Kid Rock lyrics, you want to take the Bad Bunny lyrics, I mean, come on, it's like a whole nother level. And that's coming from a conservative who's like, this is outrageously
there was a
vulgar.
piece of Kid Rock's lyric where he's talking about underage girls that was highlighted a couple days ago.
And the thing about, you didn't have to speak Spanish to know what he was saying, right? And it was so joyful. It was so upbeat. It was so young kids and people getting married and, iconic.
But even if it wasn't, you don't like the music.
I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't hate the performance.
Even if it wasn't, you don't like the music, it doesn't make it un-American. One, America doesn't have a national language, right? And so if he spoke Spanish, he spoke Spanish. He's Puerto Rican, he speaks
However,
Spanish to
but
Puerto
it
Rican.
should be an event that
but
brought
imagine
people
being so
together.
bigoted that you think, I don't like this music, so it's un-American.
Right.
Well,
Imagine
I don't
being
think
so
he
bigoted
said.
that
I
you
don't think Bad Bunny set himself up for success, though. He tainted his future performance by his anti-ICE activism that nobody asked for.
Or he elevated his stature.
He
Or
set
he
himself up for
elevated
success by
himself.
being the
it's-
top-selling artist right now in the world. He has
But
3
that's why
songs in
so
the
many
top 10.
Americans, I think,
That's why
tuned
he was
out.
in
They
the Super Bowl.
tuned out because they anticipated an anti-law enforcement screed when they would have just
didn't
wanted a
happen.
performance,
He
which
had-
didn't happen.
Which didn't happen.
You're right,
So
but that's why you don't use that stage
continued
for that.
hatred of him.
And they had
And by the
great
way,
radio.
Kid Rock,
No,
Kid-
honestly,
it didn't
Kid
happen.
Rock just did an
I was
anti-woke screed, right? when they had,
Yes,
they had the
and
conversation.
he's getting criticized by the left
You
for
were
it.
Because the
saying-
artists
you
are
were
able
saying
to-
that there
ought to be able to
is
say what they want.
resentment.
Both are
What do you
cringe.
mean by
I think the left has had control over entertainment for a while, and we just haven't seen conservative values at this, exposed to the same level. We just haven't. And part of that is, outside of country music, you don't have a whole lot of outspoken conservatives in media. We just don't have in entertainment media. We don't. And I think
Abby Phillip makes a sharp point here, and it is the same argument I want to spotlight because the irony is impossible to miss. Right-wing commentators constantly market themselves as defenders of the free market, forever insisting that outcomes should be decided by consumers alone. Yet the instant the market fails to favor their preferred celebrities or viewpoints, that principle disappears. Suddenly the rules they praise no longer apply. Take Jason Rantz, who, in my opinion, stands out as one of the most grating recurring guests on Abby Phillip's CNN panel. And that is a high bar considering that figures like Scott Jennings and Ben Ferguson appear there so often. Rantz, however, adds his own unmistakable brand of smug confidence to every exchange. What truly fuels frustration on the right is actually quite simple. Large numbers of people just do not share their tastes or agree with their opinions. Bad Bunny is hugely popular because global audiences freely choose to support him, meaning he succeeded within the very market system conservatives celebrate. His rise was not manufactured by some DI plot. Even if a television executive somewhere preferred him over a white performer for diversity optics, that alone could never transform anyone into one of the biggest stars on earth. That level of fame only happens when millions genuinely connect with the art. What we are witnessing now is a backlash from MAGA voices who feel their cultural dominance slipping. Instead of accepting that trends evolve and audiences move on, they recast disagreement as persecution and treat criticism as tyranny. In truth, what some of them appear to want is a kind of reverse DEI, where artists like Kid Rock or a country singer crooning about trucks and beer are artificially elevated to match someone like Bad Bunny, not because listeners demanded it, but because it suits a familiar comfort zone. The deeper issue is that the era when older white male voices automatically commanded the spotlight is fading, and rather than adapt to a changing culture, they respond with anger at a world that no longer centers them. That shift reflects changing audiences, changing values, and a cultural momentum they simply cannot stop now.
came out and said, I'm not comfortable speaking out as a conservative. And I think we have going on right now with Nicki Minaj, who's getting attacked over this very issue.
Most artists don't speak out about politics. They're
One way or the other.
successful.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
They're
agree.
successful on their fandom, on whether
And
people
Bad
love their
Bunny
music,
wasn't
whether
chosen
they
for
are
his
producing
politics.
things that are
Correct.
good.
But there's
so
a
I mean,
bullying culture.
I don't believe that any artist should be judged on their politics. But if it is, in fact,
Depends
that
on the politics.
right-leaning artists are just simply not producing the art that people want to consume, isn't that just merit?
No,
Playing
because
itself
whether
out?
or not someone feels
Because they're not
comfortable
allowed to be
speaking
right.
out in
I'm
favor of
talking
their
about putting
conservative
aside.
values.
I'm talking about putting aside.
Of course, everyone has the right to speak their mind, and no law in America requires anyone else to feel comfortable while they do it. The First Amendment protects citizens from being jailed for their opinions and from facing physical harm because of what they say. What it does not guarantee, however, is applause, loyalty, or an audience. You are free to express any belief, but nobody is obligated to buy your albums, stream your movies, watch your show, or support your brand just because you shared your thoughts. What many in MAGA circles seem to want is a kind of forced equality, where everything must be equally popular and equally celebrated, regardless of what the public actually wants. That is not how reality works, and it is certainly not how markets operate. Imagine a friend group where one person is constantly rude, dismissive, and unpleasant, yet someone insists that the group must invite them to every gathering. Would you pressure your friends to spend time with someone they genuinely dislike, just to make a point about fairness? That is essentially the logic here. If most Americans prefer an artist like Bad Bunny over someone like Kid Rock, that is not evidence of a conspiracy against conservatives. It simply reflects the audience making a choice, and the right losing that particular cultural contest. I also slightly disagree with Abby Phillip on the idea that artists should be shielded from consequences for their political opinions. If a performer openly shares strong political views and fans decide they no longer wish to support them, that is not oppression. It is consumer choice at work. Many MAGA voices act as if they have a right not to be offended, treating disagreement itself as an attack. While they absolutely have the freedom to speak, everyone else has the same right to respond, criticize, or simply walk away. To them, that response is labeled tyranny or censorship, even though their platform remains untouched. The irony is striking. These same commentators spent years mocking safe spaces on college campuses, yet now they seem to demand their own protected bubble, a place where their views cannot be challenged and their feelings remain unhurt. They insist on comfort and insulation for themselves, while denying it to anyone who disagrees. Public discourse thrives on disagreement, not uniformity, and a culture that tolerates debate without demanding agreement is ultimately stronger, healthier, and far more resilient. If you enjoyed this analysis, please like and subscribe for more thoughtful commentary and breakdowns of culture, music, and social trends.
No, you're missing the point. Bad Bunny wasn't chosen because of his politics. He was chosen because he's a good artist. He just happened to have views you don't agree with.
Oh, 100%.
That's nothing to do with it.
Yes, no one here is
so you
saying
acknowledge he's talented, right?
Of course he's talented. I don't think he was chosen for his politics necessarily. I do think it was chosen in the context of the political world that we're now living in.
Chosen for the Super Bowl specifically?
Yeah, you're highlighting.
But I'm talking about the fact that he is one of the most, if not the most popular musician on the planet.
Right now.
That was before he was talking about ICE, before he was talking about any of this stuff.
Yes, but they were also concurrent because he was also going after ICE. He's been going after ICE for a while.
This was before Donald Trump was president.
Yeah.
Before ICE, Bad Bunny was a massive music star globally.
Yes. He brought in
has nothing to do with
the reason why he got the attention of conservatives who expressed some reservations was because of his political stances in a context in which conservative viewpoints generally not put on display.
You're right that that's the reason that conservatives started paying attention to him. That is not the reason that he is a massive star.
Yeah,
he is a massive star.
I don't know anyone's
You're right. The reason he was actually chosen is because Roger Goodell wants the NFL to go global and he wants to expand into the Latin America markets.
Bingo.
That's why he's chosen.
That's capitalism.
Right.
Exactly. And you hear it again at the end when Jason Rantz starts pushing this idea of balance, asking whether everything is supposed to be 50-50. What he and many MAGA supporters seem to want is a world where if artists like Bad Bunny or Taylor Swift gain massive attention, simply because people genuinely enjoy them, then there must automatically be a conservative star elevated to the exact same level, with equal spotlight, equal promotion, and equal popularity, regardless of whether the audience actually wants it. That's what makes the situation so ironic. Conservatives often argue that the media is dominated by the left, pointing to actors, hosts, and entertainers. Yet many of the executives and corporate leaders running major companies lean conservative themselves. On top of that, there are entire networks like Fox News and other platforms designed specifically for right-wing audiences. If conservatives truly believe in the free market, the solution is simple. Create conservative music, conservative films, conservative shows, and let them compete. If people connect with them, they will succeed. The reality, however, is that much of that content does not resonate with a broad audience. Part of the reason may be that creative communities often attract individuals who question norms and push boundaries, whereas conservatism, by definition, focuses on preserving tradition and maintaining the status quo. Artists tend to be forward-looking, experimental, and willing to challenge expectations, which naturally creates tension with the political movement built on preservation. That cultural clash is something commentators, like Rantz, do not seem to understand, because they frame the issue as unfair treatment rather than simply a difference in audience preference. They imagine a perfectly even playing field, where the voices they agree with must receive the same promotion and praise as the ones they dislike. But that is not how life works, and it is certainly not how the free market they claim to champion operates. If audiences prefer one artist over another, that is a reflection of taste, not oppression. When Abby Phillip suggests that if you don't like something, you can simply change the channel, it should be a simple solution. Yet for MAGA supporters, it never feels enough. They don't just want the freedom to speak. They want guaranteed cultural dominance and equal recognition at all times. The moment someone expresses a different preference or perspective, it is framed as oppression rather than simple disagreement. So what do you think about this panel and the broader reaction? Is this just frustration from voices who feel their cultural influence slipping? Or is there something deeper at play? Share your thoughts in the comments below.